Welcome to Know and Awaken Your Soul's Unlimited Potential. My name is Eva, and as always, I'm so happy to have you here with me. And today, I'm gonna be sharing a bit of a story based on my background and also something that's been inspired by an event that's currently happening in my country where a certain cult has been uncovered, and in this cult, it's really sad. This one man, one preacher, actually convinced hundreds of his followers to starve themselves to the point of death in the name of leaving the earthly miseries and getting to join Jesus, much sooner. Like literally that was the message behind all of this, and it's a really sad thing to see because they're still actually uncovering this bodies. They still haven't found all the bodies, and there's still people who are currently still following the belief system of this preacher. And when you look at this situation, you find that people, because usually we'll assume that people who are duped into such things are maybe not people who have a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, or have been exposed to the world so much. But you find that people who already had established themselves, they had families, they had jobs, would actually give up all their property to go and join this preacher and following his ideals, all in the name of leaving the earthly misery and joining God much sooner. And you've seen this situation time and time again. I mean, this is not the only cult in existence. There's so many currently existing all over the world. Many of them, some of them known, some of them unknown, right? And they're always coming up with this weird ideals. I mean, I'm sure if you're watching this, you've had a ton of cults who come up with the doomsday messages, and they convince the followers to give up all the property and join this person in welcoming or waiting for this doom day to come. And so many people have been duped by this, and I was really trying to trying to find the answer, like what would make someone go to certain extremes or be duped in such a huge way to give up everything that they've ever worked for for the sake of salvation. And I found that a lot of people, especially in the world that we're living in, like so many people have given up hope. There's so much happening all over the world. I mean, talk about inflation, there's war, there's disease, like you name it. It feels like we're being fought on all corners. And for a lot of people, they feel powerless, they feel hopeless, and they're searching for something bigger than themselves to get themselves out of the situation they're in. They're searching for a deeper connection, a deeper meaning to their current existence, a deeper explanation as to what is currently happening in the world right now. They're looking for something, and now in that search, unfortunately, they end up in front of these people who take advantage of that desperation and decide to manipulate their fears, to manipulate their beliefs, and convince them to believe in a certain ideology, and make it so true to the point that this person will sacrifice everything that they've worked their entire life for just to follow this person because they've been convinced. And one of my teachers actually shared with me, like, you find that when you look at the history of religion, that a lot of people would go to or will embrace the religion aspect because on Sundays it was kind of like an escapist kind of thing, where like they would work so hard during the week, and like in the olden days there was like literally like maybe entertainment or rest was probably for just the 1%, the elites, the royals and the nobles and all that. And if you're not part of that, basically your entire existence was to work yourself day in day out in the sun, in the cold, or whatever. Work yourself to tiredness. And basically on Sundays was the only day that these people could actually get to escape their misery. Those 2, 3, 4, 5 hours they would spend in church just sitting and listening gave them a sense of, or a break basically from work. So a lot of it is tied to that, which is currently being seen in the world. A lot of people trying to embrace religion as a form of escapism, right? You're escaping the pain that you're feeling. You're escaping the emptiness that you feel inside. So it's easier to embrace something like that because it feels like, ooh, there's someone out there who's in control of all this misery, and there's a reason for this sacrifice, there's a reason for all of this suffering, because if I suffer enough, then it means that I earn my way to heaven. I mean, this is basically what is being taught by so many of these cults, if I may call them. And I'm gonna share a little bit of my story and basically my background as to basically my journey with religion, right? So I was brought up in a Christian household, and for me, like, Sundays was a day of church. Like, that was non-negotiable. Ever since I was small, ever since I was able to know myself, I knew Sunday was the day of church, and that was it. And I continued with that for basically my entire childhood all the way to adulthood, until it got to a certain point where I had such conflict with the kind of beliefs or the kind of things I was being told in church and the person that I was, because I was brought up to believe that, if you're a sinner, you're going to go to hell. Anytime you lied, anytime you cheat, anytime you did anything evil or sinful, basically meant that there was a high chance you will go to hell. And I was also brought up with the ideology that if you do not confess, to what is it called, Jesus to be your Lord and Savior, that basically you'd go to hell. So literally, it didn't matter if you were a good person on the outside, it didn't matter if you treated the people around you nicely, it didn't matter if you didn't lie, it didn't matter if you didn't engage in all these vices, as long as in all of this you did not proclaim Jesus to be your Lord and Savior, then you were going to go to hell. So that was the number one thing I had conflict with. The second thing I had conflict with was a lot of the preaching I'd hear was that, if you're not living a godly lifestyle, if you're not, 100% for God, and that means giving up all the vices, the movies, the TV shows, the music, all of that, all of those vices that, that were considered worldly, basically it meant that you will go to hell. And it didn't matter if maybe you will only engage with the vices on particular days, and then maybe you're good on some days, as long as you're not 100% for church, you were definitely going to go to hell. So that was the second thing I really had a difficult time dealing with. The third thing was that a lot of the preachers that I grew up listening to will share testimonies of how, God had gotten them out of such bleak situations. They were in so much pain, they were in alcoholism, they were addicted to so many things, their life was just going badly, and then one day they hear a voice from God, and God kind of like pulled them out of whatever misery they were suffering from, and they became whole, and now they had decided to dedicate their entire life to serving God. And that sense of them finding their purpose is something that I really admired, because I was also trying to find my purpose all the way from childhood. I wanted to know, like, why am I here? What's the reason for my existence? And I find it so amazing that they go through those kind of experiences and have their purpose just outlined to them in such an amazing way. And that was my ideology. So I was waiting for me to have that experience, for me to find my own meaning of, existing. That is what I was waiting for. And the other thing was that, also when I of course, like, I struggled so much with my emotions, I struggled so much with accepting myself, I struggled so much with loving myself for who I was, I struggled so much because I just felt like I wasn't fitting in to whatever the world expected of me. I felt like there was something wrong with me, there was such emptiness inside of me. And when I would hear such stories, I expected, God will, in His mercy, find me and take these feelings away from me and make me whole again. And I waited and I waited and I waited for so many years, and I prayed and prayed and tried to be a good little Christian, but it never happened. So what finally happened? It got to a point I was like, what? I'm done trying to be a good Christian. Like, I'm done. Like, I was like, what? I'm gonna turn my back on God, my back on Christianity, because it didn't make sense to me. And I was like, what? If I can't be 100% here, and I have tried so much to be good, but I keep failing and failing, and I was really judgmental on myself those days. So I was like, if I can't be 100% here, I might as well embrace or be of the world. And that's basically it. And that's how I actually now stopped, actually completely going to church, because it just stopped making sense to me. So remember, like all along, all I was asking for or waiting for was for God to take away these feelings from me, like this emptiness, this sadness that I used to struggle with, and also to give me or show me the reason for my existence. And that never happened. And when it did happen is when I turned my back on that, right? So, and I actually stayed away from church or God or anything religion for so many years, you know, until now. Of course, after going through my dark night of the soul and, having all areas of my life affected, and basically that forced me to go within myself and try to heal all the pain that I was struggling with until then. And that was actually what was missing in my life, because all along, all I was taught by these people, by church, was that the answers will be found outside of myself. The answers will be found when I looked up to God and I waited on Him and Jesus to come and save me. And that is what I was waiting for. No one ever told me that work needed to be done. No one ever told me that action needed to be taken to get myself to that state I wanted to be in. And which is what a lot of people are struggling with right now. They've been spoon fed, or basically fed to all these stories that, God is the only savior, Jesus is the only savior, and if you don't believe in Him, you'll, like, all those ideologies, right? They've been fed to that the only way to get out of this emptiness, this pain they feel inside of themselves, to get themselves out of this suffering, is through their faith, through their prayer, through their fasting and all that. That is what will get them out. But you find that a lot of them don't actually do the work to get themselves out of that pain. A lot of them don't take any actions to actually improve certain aspects of their life. And even if they do, a lot of it is not something that is aligned to their true self, to the true nature of their soul. They go along with whatever is expected of them by society, not something that their soul is crying out for. They haven't really remembered who they are. They haven't really reconnected with who they're supposed to be. Okay, and you'll find that so many people, and this is a question that I always ask myself, it's how is it that someone who's been in the religious space for such a long time and is so good at it, they pray, they're seen all over, like in front of church, praying and worshiping and all that, but then you look at their life on the outside and something is just not agreeing or relating to whatever they do, right? Like, because there's always this a discrepancy somewhere. If at all those things that they're preaching to you, if at all these things that they are making you believe, that if they truly worked, then you'll see aspects of it reflected in your life. But you find that a lot of them will embrace that so much to the point that they sacrifice their own relationships with their partners, with their children, because their entire life is dedicated to that. And that's not how it's supposed to be. You find that a lot of them embrace that so much, they forget that, yes, I'm unhappy in my job, because now that's the thing. It's that, a lot of them are told, go pray and fast and do all that, and God is going to take you out of this job that you're so miserable in, right? But they're actually not taking action to try and improve their skills, or even taking actions to go and look for the jobs elsewhere for them to get out of that situation. They're just waiting for, again, the magic wand to be waved and for their pain to be taken away. And here's my message to you: that is never going to work. As long as there is no action with your faith, and don't get me wrong, faith is such a strong thing. Faith is basically, I would say, 80% of the work you need to do, because if you don't have that belief in yourself, if you don't have the thought and the mental and the emotional patterns to support the kind of vision that you want to create for yourself, then it doesn't matter what kind of action you take. Like, nothing will actually work, because your belief system is what actually creates the reality that you have on the outside. So as long as something inside of you believes that it's never gonna work, or you're feeling a certain kind of way of, about your situation, nothing you do on the outside, regardless of how many actions you take, it's never going to work. Your thought, your mental, your emotional patterns matter so much. So I'd say that's like 80% of the work. So again, faith is so essential in this. Nothing wrong with that. But faith without action is meaningless. So it doesn't matter if I sit here the whole day, 24/7, 365 days a year, and I'm just talking on camera and not doing anything else on the outside, and then I'm expecting my situation to change. That's never going to change. Action still needs to be taken for me to get to the level I need to be at. There are some skills I might need to learn if maybe I want some improvement in my career. There's some skills I might need to acquire to get me to the level or to the income stream that I want to bring in. Are you getting what I'm saying? So when all these preachers, they dupe you into believing that your salvation and all your answers will only be found through certain kind of practices that you have on the outside, or they tell you that the answers and the solutions you're seeking for are all on the outside, and none of them tell you to go inside to find the answers within yourself, that is a cause for, actually, what I'll tell you is this, that all the answers, all the solutions you're seeking, they're already inside of you. So the only thing missing is that you're not really connecting to your true self, your soul, to connect with what you need to do, like going forward. Okay? So, and also for some people, you'll find that they'll get the intuition to do certain things, but because it's not the answer that they expected, or it's not the answer that relates with what they've been told by these so-called preachers or this so-called society or this so-called religion, they never really take action on their soul intuition, even though their soul is constantly trying to speak to them, because again, their belief system is so married into whatever they've been taught to believe. So they'll constantly be doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and that's why you find a lot of them find such comfort in living such religious lives but not doing anything on the outside, because it's the same thing over and over and over again without actually having to take any uncomfortable action on the outside. So they get stuck in that cycle of victimhood, of blaming their woes on the devil, of blaming their evil suffering they're going through on God trying to, teach them a lesson, or the devil something. I'm sure you've heard of this ideologies time and time again, and that's really, really not true. So if that is something you're struggling, I know for me, for a fact, that my spirituality is something that I struggled with for such a long time. And like I was sharing before, my answers never came from the outside. That emptiness, that peace I was trying to feel on the inside, that emptiness I wanted to feel, the only way I was able to get myself out of that was by actually doing the work, by reconnecting with my soul, reconnecting with my higher guidance. Not based on what all these other people's beliefs were, but based on what my soul was choosing. And I've been listening to that. And funny thing is that connection, that deep connection I was searching for with God, if anything, right now, it's so much deeper compared to how I was all the way from childhood. Which tells you something. The answers are not outside, the answers are all inside. The other thing I tell you is that when you're relying on these people to show you the way, these so-called preachers to show you the way, remember that a lot of them, they read the religious books and then they pick certain excerpts from that. I don't know the right words, but they'll pick certain phrases, they'll pick and choose certain phrases from the religious text and then manipulate it or twist it to suit their own ideals. Okay, so they'll pick a certain verse and then maybe it's all about tithing, and you'll find that their entire message will all be about you sacrificing your property for the glory of God. So don't attach so much to the material wealth. Look to God to save you and all that. And you find that a lot of people now will end up selling their property because they've been taught that by their so-called preacher that material wealth is wrong. And then what happens with this property? They end up giving it to this person. So this person actually ends up getting rich on the backs of his so-called followers. They tell these followers that material wealth is meaningless, but they are busy getting rich from this material wealth. They are busy living the lifestyle from this so-called material wealth. So that should make you really think twice with what it is you're being preached to by these people. Do they actually embody whatever they're preaching to you? Sadly, most of them, if I would say most of them, the ones that I know of, when you look at their lifestyle, it really doesn't embody what they preach. And if at all they're twisting the words in the Bible to or any other religious text to suit their own ideals, can you really trust anything else they tell you? And this is why I always say, like, your own best guide is you. Your best guru is you. No one else can do that for you. Okay, so if you're searching for those answers, don't wait for someone else to come and give you the answers. Don't wait for someone else to come and give you the solution. Go deep within yourself to figure out the answers for yourself, because they're within you, whether you know it or not. And then you have to learn how to trust yourself. Trust whatever comes through for you. Because that's the other thing that's missing with a lot of people. They get the answers, but then they doubt the answers. They don't trust themselves. So they never take action. And the best way to deal with this is actually by taking the next step. Taking action is so essential. A lot of people get so scared of getting out of their comfort zone because they're not used to this other side of the world, the other side of, what comes next if I take this uncomfortable action or uncomfortable step. So they're comfortable staying in their own safety net zone, right? But the best way to deal with that is, even though you don't know the outcome of whatever action you decide to take, the only way for you to know is by taking that step. And then watch for whatever results you create. If at all they support whatever you're trying to create, then you know the path you need to take. And if they don't, if you create results that are a bit negative, then you have the option, because again, you are in control. You have the option of choosing another path for yourself, changing a couple of actions and creating different results that suit the kind of vision that you have in your life. But don't ever wait on the outside world to figure this out for you. Don't always rely on the advice from people to show you what you're supposed to do. And I'll share from my example. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn. I love to read. So I'm always reading so much. I'm always consuming so much information. And it's very easy, especially in this day and age, to get pulled in so many different directions. One person says this, the other person says that. It's very easy for you to be confused with which ideal path to follow, as long as you don't know who you are. So for me, I know as much as I'm consuming all this information, since I have that connection with myself, I'm able to determine what feels true to me and what doesn't. Whatever feels true to me, I'll adopt those beliefs or adopt the knowledge that I'm getting to them. But the ones that don't, once I've really reflected on it, I'll just walk away from it. Maybe it's for someone else, not for me. Because again, all of this information that's out here, not everything is suited for each and every. It's not like a one size fits all, because we're all different. We're all designed differently. So whatever works for you might not work for you. But when I make my way the absolute truth, that is where it starts becoming a problem. Because again, if my way works for me and it doesn't work for you, and you decide to follow my way, guess what? You're just gonna end up messing yourself up even worse than you currently are. So it's that spiritual connection that you're seeking, seek it with yourself first. Rediscover who your soul is. Rediscover your purpose from inside, never from the outside. Don't wait for something outside of yourself to again give you all the answers that you're seeking inside. So I'm gonna end my video here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know down below in the comment section if you agree, if you resonate with anything that I've said. I'd love to hear from you. And just to say thank you so much for tuning into my video until this point, I have prepared a very beautiful quantum flow meditation for you to just help you tap into higher vibration of being, help you tap into inner states of calmness, of bliss and peace in just a few short minutes. Because one thing that I really struggled with was my emotions. One thing that I really struggled with was my mental well-being, and this quantum flow meditation is designed to help you overcome that, if at all that is something that you struggle with. So if you want to have a listen to it, check out the link down below in the description box. And also, if you do like the kind of content I do share out here and you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure that you subscribe, and also click on the notification bell that's next to the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on anything I share out here. And as always, I end my video by sharing with you how I can actually help you reconnect with yourself, reconnect with your true self, and remember who you are, who you're supposed to be, because a lot of people do not have this connection out here, you know. And I do that with two modalities, one of which is quantum flow, which is all about rewiring your nervous system, clearing all this trauma, all these wounds that your body basically remembers. Anything that you've experienced that might have been traumatic all the way from childhood, all of it is recorded within your nervous system. And for most people, they don't realize that so many of the experiences that they attract on the outside are based on a reflection of who you are on the inside. That's one, right? So if at all your nervous system has this memories recorded inside, it means that you keep on remembering, you keep on attracting situations that mirror who you are on the inside. So with quantum flow, you actually get to break this crystallization that's inside of your nervous system, break it down, and get the energy flowing again. Get your energy of manifestation, get your chakras fully open so that you can step into now states of well-being for your physical, to your emotional, to your mental, to your spiritual, to your energy well-being, you name it. Like quantum flow can actually help with that. So if you want to learn more, you can connect with me on Facebook or Instagram. My links are down below just to learn more, if you're curious, that is. And the second modality I do work with is called soul realignment, which is based on working with the Akashic records. And in the soul realignment, we basically get to read your Akashic records and rediscover who you were created to be, because a lot of people have lost themselves in this crazy world. You know, when you base your entire ideal on letting the external world define who you are, you lose yourself in the process. So a lot of people have such conflict with themselves, such conflict with accepting themselves for who they are, because they really don't know who they are. So what you can actually uncover with the soul realignment reading is you get to discover who you were created to be, who was your soul designed to be, what gifts were you designed with, what gifts were you given by God so that you can leverage them to create a better human experience for themselves. That can actually also help you with creating ideal abundant situation in your everyday to-day life if you live aligned to them. So you can discover your soul level gifts, who you really are with the soul realignment reading. You can discover where your soul is originally from. You know, not all of us were created and initially incarnated on Earth. A lot of us have had our soul experiences in other planets before now being here to continue to experience our soul experience in this planet. So if you want to know where your soul is originally from, you can discover that with the reading. The third thing is that you get to discover which dimension is your consciousness currently tapped into. Where are you receiving your soul guidance from? Because a lot of people are still identified in the level of ego. So if you want to know, are you tapped into the 5D, are you tapped into the 6D? I'm sure you've heard of those terms if you've been in the spiritual community. So if you want to know where your consciousness lies in this entire spectrum, you can discover that with the reading. The other thing you get to uncover is your soul story. And when I'm saying about your soul story, it's not telling you your entire soul story basically from the time you created. It's actually going back to the particular lifetime that your soul started making negative choices. And the reason for this is that we tie that lifetime to your current life here, because a lot of the experiences that happen in that lifetime, in your past lifetime, explain almost everything that's happened in your current lifetime. So if you want to know why things have happened the way they've had, why maybe you've had difficult relationships, difficulty with money, difficulty with health, there's a reason to that. And you can uncover that by uncovering the soul story. And after that, you get to energetically heal yourself, you know, clear all this negative karma from your blueprint. And then now with the awareness that you will get from the reading, you get to know how to show up in the world going forward so that you don't create these experiences for yourself again. So if you're curious about that, you can again connect with me on Facebook or Instagram. down below. Send me a direct message. I'm always happy to hear from you, and then we can discuss further on how you can get the reading for yourself. So I'm gonna end this video now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm sending you so much love, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.